Next, working on object-oriented programming. First of all, to understand what is an object-oriented programming, so let's see. Every language will have this concept of object-oriented programming. In Python 2, readme.md file I can create. So first, object-oriented programming means it is one kind of design where we actually work with classes. So basically, object-oriented doesn't mean that we should have classes and work. We should treat everything like an entity. Till now, you have variables and functions. We have both variables and functions. With that, we have solved a lot of problems. But the problems can be better solved if you go for like objects. Object means like, till now you know the built-in types, right? Like int, float, none, boolean, all these things are basic types. As these cannot handle certain things, we invented some data structures. That is list, tuple, set, and dictionary. Set and dictionary. So everything is like a complex data structure. It will store the data in such a way. At the same time, you have functions also. If you give like, print function, it will print. If you give like sum function, it will sum. Like that, you have individual functions. But if you want to bind together the functions and variables together, that's where the objects comes. Simply to say, if you are not comfortable with the existing objects, you create your own object, right? So that is the point. So in which case we need to go for that? What is the advantage? So if I can divide these all sections into first object-oriented programming. So if I see that without classes, can't we solve a problem? Let's see that. First, let me take one thing. I have one problem where I have two customers and each customer has some account creation. Initially, they created a zero balance account and subsequently they want to make transactions. So when they made like that, initial person came with a deposit of 1000. Next person came with a, so then he made a withdrawal of 200. So final balance is 800. In the second person also same way, he made a deposit of 3500, initial balance is so and so, then like withdraw of this much. So final balance is this much. Like that, just we need to maintain two accounts, that's it. Accounts and the balances together. So first, if you want the balance, you can create a variable called as balance and you can work. But we need to add two functionalities. One is deposit and other one is withdrawal. So what will happen when you want to make a deposit? How you do a deposit? Deposit means you take the amount that user want to deposit and you want to add that to the existing value, right? Maybe like I will write deposited this much, and so I need to add to the existing balance. If I say balance is equal to balance, so plus amount, balance equal to balance plus amount. So this is what the things. Maybe finally I want to return the balance. This is what my thought. Now, if I go in the same fashion like withdrawal, define withdrawal of the amount. So in the same lines, you mention right withdrawal amount. So balance is equal to balance minus amount. Return the balance. Okay. So I like that I wrote two functions. Now, in terms of usage, let me create the first customer. Say customer name is like Sudha. So for Sudha, like what is this? And so and so. Or like, yeah. First customer is like Sudha. For Sudha, how to do? First, I will make initial balance for the person. Initial balance. So to make it, maybe like I'll write, hey Sudha, what is the initial balance for Sudha? Maybe like I'll give a slash n such that it will be better shown. So if I execute this statement, so if you see this terminal, Python I need to navigate to this directory, copy path. So Python 00 so and so. You observe that initially balance is 0 because we didn't make anything, right? Next, I will make a deposit. So I need to make a deposit, say deposit of 1000 I made. After depositing, I'm asking what is the current balance. So I will write like print of f of what is the current balance. Maybe like, so that's current balance, something. Now if you see what will happen, I am doing an item. If I say clear and Python 00, now you can observe what is saying. Hey, you are able to change the local value. But what happened? Did you observe that unbounded local error? See, are you passing the balance to it? You're not passing. Then how can I change a outside global variable within the function? Global variables, if you want to change within the function, first we need to pass that as a global. By default, immutable objects are called by value. Any change you make within function will not reflect outside. But if you want to reflect outside, then what is the solution? We need to define them as a global. Now I defined. If I execute again, now things are working. Did you see? When I made a deposit of 1000, so it got the 1000. Initially balance is 0. Subsequently after deposit, you got some amount. So it's good. Now after that, we will make a deposit of some amount. Maybe like, you saw initially 1000 deposit and done. And we want to make a withdrawal of some 200. So I will do a withdrawal. Say withdrawal of. So how much we made? 200, right? So 200 withdrawal. I wrote like a 200 withdrawal. And after that, I'm asking, hey, what is your current balance? You see, initially balance, after deposit, after withdrawal. Now initial balance is 0. After depositing 1000, after withdrawal 200, it is 800. Super, you created good. Now let's go for the second person. So similarly for the second person also we need to do. So for the second out customer too, maybe like I will make some other name. Let's take like Sai. For Sai we need to do. So what is the initial balance of Sai when I did? So Sai should have like a 0 balance, right? Whenever I create, I am asking. But to my astonishment, did you observe that the moment you create an account for the second person, what is the initial balance you are noticing? The moment I created, the second person is having a balance of 800. Means you have variables, you have functions, but you cannot bind them together, right? So though you tried your best, but you couldn't because you in this particular example, without binding the variables and the things, how can you get together? That's a really difficult thing. Of course, any problem can be solved in different ways. It's not like, classes are only there to solve a problem. Without classes also, we can solve the same problem. So then like how to solve this problem? So let me take the same example. So we have this problem, two customers we need to address. So for these two customers to address, first what I will do, I will take the previous example as it is and I will make a small addition. So as this balance is like a global variable, like, immutable object, you are able to have an issue, right? Rather than doing so, we can do something. So relying on it, I will do like a create, so, account, something like I will do a create account. So where I will return this value. So I will return, so like balance is like a dictionary, because like I can do outside also. Of course, again, if I give a dictionary also, it was an mutable object. If you do for one, it will have a leakage on another. To avoid all those things safely, I will create like an account and I placed it. So what is the advantage, sir, of going this? So in this way going, the same person withdrawal and everything is there, right? Instead of you doing all these things, whenever you create a person, you pass like a Sudha is equal to create account. The moment I did it, so what will Sudha have? So Sudha will return a dictionary containing balance equal to 0. So now instead of getting the balance, I should say like Sudha's balance, right? Sudha of balance. Like that I need to get. In the same fashion here also, for Sudha of balance I need to get. Sudha of balance I need to get. In the same fashion here also, when I create, Sai is equal to create account like this. So now if I want to get the balance, I need to say, hey, Sai of balance. For Sai, what is the balance like that? Now with this, will the problem be solved? Let me try. So CLS and Python 01 so and so. Did you see that? So you have created a balance, but when you are passing, so you are passing a deposit. What is saying? Name balance is not defined because globally you didn't define right. So how can it know what global if you define? It will check whether globally a variable is defined or not. Else how to whom it will update. So globally should not be done. Then how do you get this date balance? The existing balance we need to pass. Only then it will execute. Or so you give the account and it will do the execution. So then in this case, as you cannot pass the balance directly, balance is every time associated with the account. You pass the account and with the account we can do whatever you want. Means here in the file, I pass an account. Here also I pass an account. So after passing both the accounts, I can do what are the addition, subtraction that from this account. So how I can do is like instead of this one, how what I can do? Say account of balance is equal to account of balance minus amount. So don't you think it is correct now? So in the same fashion here also, instead of this, we can say account of balance equal to account of balance plus amount. So now in this point, as we are doing for this local, so you are passing the account and for that we are updating. You need not even return. There is no point of returning. So now the entire code became more easy. And when you are depositing, you need to pass the person. Say like for Sudha, I want to add 1,000. For Sudha, I want to withdraw something. Similarly, for the second person, I, right, I want to do, I can repeat the same things again. So saying like, hey, for deposit, for Sai, what's the amount? Initially 3,500. So 3,500 we can deposit. So after that, we can ask the current balance. So Sai, okay, Sai is balance. So similarly, I make a withdrawal of 550, right? So similarly, in the same lines, I need to do whenever I need to do withdrawal of Sai, comma, what's our 5,500? So 550, sorry. So if I do and ask, hey, what is the balance? Now you observe the entire story will become very clear. So first we did for an account. So this is another account. It's not that all statements should be separate. You can do this statement in the last or that statement in the first, it doesn't matter. So once values are not getting interfered with another, right? So this way you can able to solve this problem to some extent. But see how much struggle we did. In the process, we learned that whenever you're creating an account, initially the account will have a balance of 0 and subsequently for that balance of 0 only, it will add. So whenever you're doing like this, So 1000, it becomes 1,000. So whenever you are doing like this, it will withdraw. So it becomes like 800. In the same fashion, whenever you create an account here, initially it is 0. Then like whenever you're doing something, it will have an operation of 0, 0. And whenever you are withdrawing the amount, it will do subsequently. So 3,500 means like 2,900 something. Oh, so here I should say Sai, right? So here also Sai is balance. So 2,900 something. You see, 2,950. 2,950. It's all because of this one. Fine. So you understood. But we did a lot of struggle to get it done. So can we solve this problem much easily? Yes, of course, using the object-oriented programming. To understand that, first learn it. So first, if you see the concept of class, I will explain that. A class are of two types. One is the old style class and other one is new style class. In Python 2, we used to have this kind of concept of old style class. Now it is a history as you never work on Python 2. So over a period of time to make it comfortable, they are introduced new style classes to Python 2 also. But now you are absolutely in Python 3, you need not worry. But be aware of that. This is one thing. And also Pippe, it says that whenever you create a class name, it should be like camel casing. All others should be like any ordinary underscore casing. So let's come with our evolution. First, how we have done the function definition. So if you say like define hello is your function, we write something. Even pass means nothing, right? So fine. And when you define a function, so we make a function call. So that is a function definition, and we have a function call. And though you have like n number of functions, until unless there is a function call, nothing will get executed. So this time you made, and it will get executed. But unfortunately, you didn't write anything here. That's how it worked. So, but this concept that every function will have a definition and a call. In the same line, even a classes also will have the same thing. But when you're creating a class, we need to use the keyword class. Say like I want to write a empty class. So I can write like an empty class, colon, and you write a pass. Means I don't want to write anything. It's like a dummy definition. So similarly, for a class also, there should be like a call, right? That call is called as instantiation. Means whenever you make a call to a function, the function will execute. But whenever you make a call to a class, an object is created. That concept is called as instantiation. So it's a process of creating instance from a class. Okay, this is a process of creating an instance from a class. So if I execute like this, it will create a class. In fact, if I execute, it's not printing because I didn't make a print, but it will create. If you want to see what is that class created and so, maybe you can assign that to a variable. When I assign to a variable, I can ask, hey, what is that it is created? I can ask the type and this thing. So now there are two entities. One is the class and the class instance. If I can now ask both the things together, you will see. You see now, I am asking about the type of the class and the type of the instance and the instance. Observe carefully. The first one is of type. Earlier in Python 2, old style classes, it should say like, I'm of type class. But now in Python 3, though they are classes, they say that they are of type. This can be like a strange for you, but be observed from now you will see these kind of things a lot. So it is of type. And when you ask it for this, the empty class, hey, give me the content. When you ask it print, it said that nothing. I am part of main.empty class. What is this main? So means just imagine. So not only this, everywhere you see this concept of main will come. Just imagine like this entire thing will execute in a script, right? If you run this name is equal to main, we say. Hope you remember whenever you are writing with class definitions, function definitions you write in the top. When name is equal to main, you execute some statements. So just imagine like all these things are objects which will go to the main class and execute. Think like that. So this is like object. But when you ask it for the instance, hey, what are you? So instance says that I am of type. So instance says that I am of type this. So I am belonging to this type. Which type? Main dot empty class. Means in this main, empty class is there. I am belonging to, I am an instance of that particular type. That's what it is saying. So means like um, any object when you're creating, when you just rule like this, how it is doing in the backend, don't you think that it don't know? So when you just do an empty, how it is creating all these things? Means whenever you create any object, so there is something called as an object. Observe, this is for the first time you're using this keyword called as object. In fact, we don't use in real time. So if I ask subclass superclass concept, is this empty class created from this object? That's what you're asking. And I wrote that yes is equal to true, means it was empty class is created from the object. But we didn't do any inheritance or so and so. So to understand further, you need to understand one thing. All the new state classes, whether you pass or not, it will take this one as an argument. It's kind of like saying that you get this inherited. These features of a basic object you inherit, and then you create your own object. So when you are not doing also inherently, that is a default thing which will go. So further I will tell of passing other classes in the inheritance concept. But you know that, so whether you create a class like this or you pass an argument and pass object also, both will work in the same way. So to make it clear, after creating this also, I am asking, hey, are you created from this object? Yes. Here also, are you created from this object? Yes. In both the cases, it will tell the same thing. So with this, it is clear that, so by default, when you create an instance, this is how it is created. So theory apart, now let's go for the practical purpose. Again, coming back to the instantiation. So to further understand about this concept of instantiation, let me define a small class. I told that we need not pass object, but you just define the class. And within the class, you can define whatever we want. Say we told that class is something which can bind both the variables and functions. So if you want to define a variables, these are called as class variables. And in the same fashion, we have defined a hello there. So this hello, the same hello if you want to define. So we need to pass one of the argument. So unlike the ordinary functions outside, we need to pass one argument called as self. What is this self means? The instance which we are creating to act like that. Means from this class, how many instances we can create? Is there any limit? No. You can create any number of instances. But so in the previous example also, when you created empty class and you created instance called as E1, do you know before that you will create an instance called as E1? We don't know. So after that, do you know what kind of another instance may be created? We don't know. When we don't know what is instance being created, if you want to refer to that instance within it, we use the self keyword. You see, if you want to bind both of them, that's where this self is needed. So we are not at this moment working more on the instance, just we are making an initial thing. So think like every function within the class are called as methods and they need to take a self as an argument. There are certain things which don't need. I will tell you about it afterwards. So simply in a class definition, there can be two types of things. One are variables called as class variables. So functions called as a methods. So as it binds both the things, it can be advantageous. What it will help, let's see. Now we created a thing. So now we need to create an instance out of it. To create an instance, I pass. So I need to make a call, my class name. So, but I need to assign to something. So to assign like this, if I assign to variable called a C1, Now if I see here and Python 03. So you can notice that it will create the class. From the class, it will create an instance you are seeing. But don't you remember that even a built-in, so like int or a float or anything, once you create an object, it will have a type, it will have a address location, it will have some directory, means dir, what are the list of attributes, right? So you can check all of that. If initially I want to look at the ID of this C1, where it is present, so I can get. So value you can get directly, but it is showing like this, saying that I am part of the main dot my class name. I am part of that instance. Then it gave like this. And similarly, so there is one more built-in function called as dir. Dir will give you the list of attributes, right? So if I execute, did you notice? So address location means it is saying somewhere else. But when I go for dir, did you see that in the instance, if I ignore the things which have underscores on either side, don't you think that there are two things called as hello world and number? So we know that hello world is a method. So number is like a constant, but it will not differentiate both the things. So if you want to know whether something is callable or not, we have the built-in function. Hope you remember, called as callable. So if I pass this callable built-in function, it will help us understand. So number, is number a callable? No, 786, it's a number, right? It's not a callable. So if something is not callable, we can directly ask, hey, give me the value. So you can directly ask. In the same fashion, can I ask for, so like number is there. Can I ask now like number 2? Is number 2 defined in the class variables? No. When something is not defined, we cannot ask, right? So what it is showing the throw error? Attribute error. For the first time you are noticing, right? Till now, in any object, we are taking an object, and for that object, what are all dir there? We are doing. Now we can define within the definition and we can use it. So, sir, so how do all get the values? So this is an attribute. If you are asking a new attribute, it will throw an attribute error. So this is how we get things. But alternatively, the same value we can also retrieve using a built-in function called as get attribute. So hope you remember I told about get attribute, set attribute, delete attribute. So earlier in the same fashion. So whether you ask that c1.number or get attribute of c1 comma number as the codes, both will work in the same fashion. In the same fashion, if you want to check whether an attribute is present or not, so for the checks, you can go for like has attribute is another built-in function, either using has attribute or in operator. So in operator you can pass to the dir. Like that also you can check whether an attribute is present or not. So next, for a particular attribute, so you have the number is equal to 786. But you observe that classes are also mutable objects. So classes are mutable objects. Why? Because you made a definition, but you are able to change it. And so now it is a mutable in one sense. So what I told, any objects which supports in-place changes are called as mutables. So after this, doing the change, I changed the value c1 dot name is number is equal to something else. You changed the value, but did you see the address location is changed? No, right? It is different to say that without changing the address location, you are able to change, right? With this, I am proving that classes are mutable objects. Hope it's clear. Next, so mutability doesn't mean that changing a value also. So mutability, it also means that you can change an attribute or you can add a new attribute. At this moment, you have only two attributes. One is class hello world as a method and a number as a class variable. Similarly, if you want to set a new one, there is something called a set attribute called a c1.number. So is equal to something. So like this also you can set. Did you see c1.number is equal to something? Maybe like, I don't want to change this. Maybe like I want to set the value as number 3. And number 3 I'm asking. Like number 1 and number 2, I'm making like number 3. Now we see what will happen. So overall, we define like number 1 here. So we are trying to ask for number 2, which is not defined. It doesn't work. Now I defined a new attribute called as number 3. So after I did a set, I can ask for this dir. So dir, if I see, observe carefully, did you see a new attribute called as number 3 came? Means setAtter can overwrite an existing value or it can set a new value also. Both can be done. In the same fashion, if I want to delete an attribute, so of course, the same setting operation, we can also do like this. Dot number 4 is equal to 444. Now observe carefully. After this, I am doing. Maybe like instead of this dir here, I will do in the last. Now observe carefully. When I did a number 1 dot set of number 3, I got it, the value. So, I am asking number 4, I should ask, right? Number 4. Observe carefully now. Number 3, when I set, I got it. Number 4 set, I got it. Did you see overall it has number 3, number 2, and like this? Means you can set an attribute like this, both the ways. Then how do you delete an attribute? So if you want to delete an attribute, the process is very simple. You can go for delete del attr like this. Either you can go for like that or say like delete. So del is a built-in function which is very powerful. We can do anything deleted. So stated that if you are able to access it, say like number 1 dot number 3 I want to delete, assume. So like this 2 attributes I'm deleting. So after that, if you can notice, did you see what happens? So you are able to delete them. And finally, did you see the 2 attributes were removed? So number 3 earlier used to be there and the number used to be there. So where are they? Number 3 was gone. So similarly, number were gone. So like that. So observe carefully. So delete. So you have deleted a C1 number. So after that, if I ask, what is this number? C1 dot number. If I want to get the value, maybe like I'll do a print of f of C1 dot number. Did you see what happened? It's crazy, right? So that is what I want to tell. So delete, using that also you deleted, like this also you deleted. Observe carefully. So when I asked for number 3, it threw an error called as attribute error. But sir, why it didn't do the same for this? Is it because like you used a del letter, it didn't work? It doesn't mean that. Okay. So this was a attribute which we defined during the definition. So that's the reason. So if I do the same thing, so using the same thing, del attr of C1 comma number 4, it is not a built-in, right? So it will delete. And after that, if I ask, hey, give me the C4 value, then you will notice. So do you see? So means with delete attribute, del attr, we can delete anything. So both ways. So what is the note to make? So both del attr and del so can delete any attribute except once defined in class definition. Okay. So except that others can be deleted. So, but you can change the values, everything can be done. That's what happens. And lastly, coming back. So we have gone too much into this variable and coming back. What is the other thing we have? Hello world, which is a function. For that also I can check. Hey, so I can ask, hey, is it callable? Yes. When someone says it's callable, we can ask. And you can observe the difference that you see now. So whenever you make if there is a method or anything function, and you are not making a call, it will say like this, bound method. Whenever something is saying a bound method, you can understand that it is a function or a method call, but you didn't make a call. So when you make a call, it will execute and give the value. So one thing you need to be aware. So overall in this definition, what I want to bring is that, so you created a class called as a my class, and you created instance called as C1. Now you can make a call to both the things in both ways. Means if I make a C1 dot class or like my class dot C like this also, both are same. Now to explain why you are using self means like this. When you read like C1 dot cell hello world, it will indirectly convert that. Hey, to who from whom this C1 is created? My class. It will do a my class. In that it will check for this attribute called as hello world. If it has, so for that, as you make a call, you need to pass like self. Hope you remember you passed a self here. That self means the C1 instance we created is passing. Tomorrow, another instance you create. So like that, whatever the instance you create, that instance will be passed. So that is what we should be aware. So lastly, so now we understood a bit about how the classes works, what is instantiation, and how this all things works. So maybe like, okay, one more thing I want to bring to your notice is that if I create like one more class now, so I can create one more class, right? So maybe like I'm creating something like this, empty class. Now in this particular thing, there are two classes called as my class and an empty class. With these two, I can do something to check. So maybe like from this empty class, to make our things easy, I'm creating an instance called as E1. Earlier we have a C1, now it is E1. Two instances. With these two instances, I can make a check. So there is a built-in function called as isInstance. So what is this isInstance doing means, if you click on it with control, it will show what is the definition. Returns whether an object is a instance of a class or not. So whenever you create a new object, how that object is created, that we can check. Say if I have something, you see here, from C1 only we created a my C1 was created from my class, right? C1 was created from empty class or not? False. And is E1 created from empty class? True. So like that, what are the user defined objects we created? We can check to whom it is belonging to. Who is a parent of something? So like that. In the same fashion, not only this, even for built-in also we can check. If I say 123, hey, is it belong to integer? Yes. 123.9, is it an integer? No. So to whom it is belonging? Hope you remember checking a type. So checking both types and doing it's a complicated thing. So instead of we checking with the type built-in function, we are making the life easy. Earlier, people used to use type of number one is int like that. Now instead of checking like that, it's easy, right? You can do is instance of both. So like that in future, if whenever we want to check two classes, whether both are belong to the same or not, all these things we can check. So like this, you should be aware. Next, after this instantiation, we can see about how to create a class. Now slowly we are coming to a stage where we can create our own class. So earlier also we created classes. Now a bit maturity in the classes. What is this called as, docstring saying constructor. What is a constructor? Basically, in class-based programming, you should be aware that there is something called as instantiation. Instantiation means you create an instance. At the same time, constructor means when you instance is getting created, so every instance should have something default. Say like a person is born. When a person is born, person should have some name, right? So what is the name? All those things. So basic things, instance need to be there the moment you create an instance. So those all things comes here. Now, how to work with it? Let me create something like a class person. Person. I told we need not pass this object, but I am just telling you to be aware. Maybe like I am saying like this is a class definition. These are called as the doc strings for us to be aware. Class level doc strings we can write, and we can have a class variable also. So maybe like my class variable is equal to say 111. So it's like a class level variable. Similarly, we can also have a methods also. Method means what? So like what it happens and others. Maybe like for this, I'm defining one method also. This is an instance method like that. Fine. Now, how do you create an instantiation? Means creating an instance. First, I create an instance. So this is how I create a person. So if I execute cls and person 04 so and so, nothing has happened because instance gets created, but we are not assigning to anything. Maybe like I'm saying p1. Say I will ask to print p1. So when I print, it says that hey, instance is created like this. Now, did you see that this method? Did you call it? So we didn't call, right? If you make a call, it will execute. So how to make a call to a method? So either we can use a complicated way called as person dot instance method of p1. So like that you can make a call, it will execute. But here no, you're not printing. So you should use a exclusive print statement to print it as it is returning. Or we can also use a very simple way where you can just ask p1 dot instance. Now if you see, to be frank, both are executing in the same way. If you execute in both, it will give the same result. So which one do you prefer as an individual? Do you want to write like this big syntax or simple? So referring with the instance is the easiest way. That's why people go with this. But fine, did you make a call to this? So until unless you made a call, is not executed. Now let me create one more method called as init. Observe this measure every time should be in the starting only. So that's a best practice. Any method can be there anywhere, but this is called as a constructor. See, if you go for language like Java and others, there can be multiple constructors also. But in Python, there will be only one constructor. Constructor is a function which will be called the moment an instance is born. Say, let me write a simple print. So if I write like a print, simple print, you observe, new instance is born, adding new features. So for the first time, I'm not even printing anything. I'm just removing everything. So if I execute, did you see? Did I make a call to this init function? No, this was automatically called. So if you do, so if you're an ordinary instance, so when you make a call also, you can see. So first the instance is born and then the next statement is executed. Means whenever an instance is called, first this will be called. So you see here, ordinary instance methods we need to call, but this will be called defaultly. So now the question is, sir, can I execute this constructor directly? So can I make this call directly? Yes, of course, but this will be very bad. It's not recommended. Assume that the moment you create an instance, it is telling that your birth ID, social security number, it is giving. Again, if you are constructing, so it will give a two say social security numbers. So that would be against what you are thinking, right? Fine. Now finally it created. So now if I go for like the instances, attributes. So if I do dir of all, you can have a look at all the things, list of attributes. Now within this constructor, I will create a variable locally. So maybe like I'll create a local variable, something like this, local variable. So when I create a local variable also, did you see that anything is there? No. For that class instance, nothing happened. Now let me create one more variable. So maybe like I will create, you see, self dot instance variable. For the first time, see, you are making use of self. So the moment I made use of self, did you see that variable is coming? Means apart from the class variables and these two, whatever you define with self, those are also coming as an attributes. So that is what. For every instance, those are called as instance variables. Okay, sir, if I am interested only in the instance variables, so dir will give you all the list of attributes, right? But sir, I am interested only in this ones. So in that case, we should go for like p1 dot underscore underscore dict. First time you are seeing a new attribute called as underscore underscore dict. So any object, if it has underscore underscore dict attribute, we can use a built-in function called as vars. So vars, what are the vars of it? So what are all the instance variables we create? Those all will come. And observe carefully. So like ordinary function, we have a return, right? So can we make a return to this constructor? No. So we should never make a return to a constructor. So by default, the return should be none only. You should not go for any other data type. So observe this carefully. Now you understood a lot about this constructor. Constructor is the default method which will get executed the moment an instance is created. And within the constructor, so it's a best practice to define all constructor variables within it only. Means you can do like self dot variable like this in other methods also, but it's the best to create in the constructor itself. Means whenever the variables are there, all will be created in the constructor. Then you can use anywhere. So it's a best practice that all variables, means instance level variables, should be created in the constructor only. And you should not make any return from this. And if you want the instance level attributes, we can go like this. And so as I told you, so both will work in the same way. When you ask for the vars of p1 or p1 dot dict, both will do in the same way. In the same fashion, sir, what if I want to get the vars of this what to say class? So p1 is an instance, but person is a class, right? If you want that information, so maybe like I will use pprint for better printing it. So maybe like I'll use from pprint import, maybe like pp, whatever it is. So if I use a pp, now you can observe the difference. Oh, I have written, I need to comment it. So the moment I commented the return, you are seeing. Did you see? The vars, if I used on a class instance, I get the instance level variables. But if I do the same thing on a class, so did you see what you got? This is the difference between a dir and a vars. Okay, but generally no one will be fooled to use like this. So vars on this one, and because like vars generally people use to get on top of this only. So similarly, we have something like locals, globals, and all these things, right? So if I just use vars without anything, pp of vars. So maybe like I'll make a empty print just to make a difference. You see now, if I just do vars, it is like it is giving a lot of things. What are this one? This is like vars of the entire thing. So it is same like passing this vars to a global. Means when you don't give anything, the global definition. So it will take and it will give. Hope you remember when you imported a script, Python script, the script also will have some underscore underscore dict. You remember? That is the global variables only. So when you are not passing, it's indirectly doing the same thing, like p3 of so globals. So when you don't give anything, it will pass like that. Means like so vars of globals like that, something. So like that it will give whatever is the current project. So now the assignment for you is like using these vars, apply on different things like list, set, dictionary, and other data types, and see how it is responding. But in this program, we learned about what is a constructor, how to build it, what are the steps. Next, going further with the constructor with arguments. Till now you have a constructor, but for the constructor you didn't pass anything. Now let me take a new step in this process. Let me have something like this. I have created a constructor. It doesn't mean that constructor is created means something should be there inside. So let me write a definition. Say if name is equal to score main. So we should have this habit, else we will forget. So now let me go with like instantiation. Instantiation means like first we are creating an instance. So if I create an instance called as animal, things will work. CLS and Python 05, it will create. So after creating the instance, if I work on it, say like now if I want to create a name of the animal, and I want to define it inside. Say instead of a print like this, I want to say self dot name is equal to name. Whatever the user has given, so we want to take. So in this case, if I execute again this call, it will throw an error. What is saying? Hey, animal is expecting one required positional argument name, but you didn't give. So when we gave directly, it is throwing an error. So we understood that things doesn't work like this. Then what is the next step? We need to pass some argument to it. So maybe like I will pass something like a duck. Then it will create and use it. Okay. Whatever you pass to the constructor, that will go inside. So maybe when I'm assigning, so can't I assign to a variable? Yes. If I assign to a variable, I can see right. So now duck is the instance of this animal. If I print it, it will say that it is like this. Now, for this, if you ask, can we make a call to this constructor? Dot any init of so duck comma so duck. So this is what actually happened in the backend. So when you have made a call indirectly, so we should not make a call to it, but just I am telling to you. So what are the duck you have passed? That will go as it is. So if you want to retrieve the attributes, so I told that we have, if you want to get the instance level variables, we need to go for vars. So in this case, you define only one self attribute, only one thing you will get. If you give some other things also, you will get that. If you're not defining, you cannot get it. So how to access a instance variable? So directly. So instance dot name. If you access, you get the value. So that is how it works. Maybe like for this class, if you want to make some method, maybe like I am defining something like this. So I want to define a method called as walk. Observe, this is a ordinary method. Every method has a self, I told, right? Whatever the name it gives, it will say like walks. So now I am making a call to it. So you can observe that duck dot walks. Say duck walks, it says. In the same fashion, if I create another thing, animal, and I can ask, you see, if I ask African rhino I passed, and if I ask, it will say African rhino walks. So like that, I can do anything, it will give. So like that, if I ask for the DAR of it, or like vars, so you can see that vars of rhino means as there is only one self argument, only one value we get it. So like that, things will work here. So this is all about how do you define a small thing and work on it. Now, one step ahead in this process, so we learned is that how to work with this self argument and how to work on it. So next is that, so we have seen about the different classes. So let me take one example of a class. So which has all these things and how we have solved the problem of the banking issue. So to address this issue, now we understood by now that in the previous problem, we have deposits and balance together we need to maintain, which we couldn't maintain because we don't know how to hold them together. So, but now we can hold them with our experience that we can create a class called as account. So the simple, first you make a design, what you want. In that account, there should be balance. So balance is like the variable and you need to have a method called as a deposit and like withdraw. So with that we can do right. So that is how first we need to design. So first I will do like that. You can notice it. There is an account. Every account need have a constructor. So this is a design. I will tell about it afterwards. So first, everyone need to have a balance. I create the balance. You see, why I'm not creating balance at the class level, I will tell you afterwards. So if I create at the class level, it will be the same for all. So, but if I create here, it will be different. Maybe like not only this, account, so name, account holder, maybe like account holder is equal to some name I'm taking. Initially for everyone, the balance will be 0. If you pass some name, it will create a account with that name. So, and we need to have a deposit. So everything need to have a self and an amount that you need to pass. So whatever the balance you want to do. So as we can refer everything with respect to self itself, you need not worry. So now all operations we can do with self. Self dot balance. Self dot, so balance is equal to self dot balance plus amount. So, and we need not return also because everything is happening there. It's not a global variable, but it is a variable which is bound together. In the same fashion, if I want to do a withdrawal, so withdrawal, so same thing, self and amount you do. In the same lines of how we have done the balance, we can do here also. So instead of a plus, I will do a minus. Lastly, if you want to display the account balance, instead of we doing outside, we can do that also inside only. For every person, we need not tell who is the person because if different accounts you create, for everything self dot so and so will happen. Now, after doing all these things, our story becomes easy. So how it works? First, if I need to create an account for like say the first person. So for the first person, say like I am creating like Sudha. Sudha if I create. So how do you create? I pass an account. For that account, I need to pass a minimum one name. Say like I am doing Sudha. It will create an instance. So if I go over like print of vars of Sudha, it will say like what are is the class instance variables. Print 07 so and so. Now did you see that balance was 0, so account holder is Sudha. Now what are all operations are there I can do? Now maybe I will create another account called as Shruti. So another account called as Shruti, and I can ask for Shruti what is that happening. So if I take like hey, for Shruti what is the VAS? For Shruti also same thing happens. I didn't give the exact names here, separate. Whatever you give, the name exactly everything. Maybe like now I want to check what is the initial balance, and then I want to deposit, and I want to do withdrawal, everything. So I can do like this. Say initially I make a print saying what is the balance. Did you see? I did with respect to Shruti only, so it will know automatically. And whenever I want to add the value, Shruti itself, if I do like a so deposit of something. So the deposit will go against her only, say 1,000. And similarly, after deposit, I can ask what is the balance. I can ask what's the balance. You see now what will happen now. So I created a Sudha, but I need to do any operations on it. Only for Shruti I did. Initial balance is 0 and I deposit some amount. Then I can do a withdrawal of some amount and see what is the balance. Say if I do something withdrawing of 400 and I'm asking the balance. So for Shruti, oh, I am doing like withdrawal, right? So withdrawal. What are the spelling I give? Exactly. So after doing a 5, so you got like 600. This is fine. And similarly, for another person I create. So again, doing the same operation. You see now this time. So for Simon I created, I'm asking the initial vars. And after depositing, I'm asking. And after withdrawal, I'm asking. So now if you see, so okay, withdrawal is the number. Withdrawal. Okay, now it works. So now did you see the balance and transactions of one person is not affecting the other? Did we use any complex logic? Very simple logic. we are able to bind both the variables and the methods together, functions together. So that's how we are able to achieve. So this is the importance of classes. Any problem can be solved like this. But you may get a doubt. Sir, this balance, why you made as a class level, so instance level, called a self variable, why do you make at the class level? To understand that, we need to understand the concept of class variables. So with this, we can see. To understand about the class variables, let me take one example of a class definition. Say like, I am going for a class called as employee. So whether I can pass like an object, it's not needed, but you can just do in this class. So if you want to first define any variables, say like employee count is equal to 0, or like the employee ID. So like that, I can define two class variables. If I define like this, I'm defining like this here, two class variables, employee count and ID. So what all things which would be common for all the instances, those we need to make. So now with this, if I create an instance, say employee 1 is equal to employee I created. Okay. So for this employee, maybe like I want to check. So employee dot, so employee count. So because like you just created a variable, nothing will happen, right? Means we need to do some operations also. If I say clear and Python 08, nothing is happening. So now let me add some functionality to it. So initially, when I create an employee should have minimum things, right? So I will write a constructor init, sorry, underscore init underscore of. So I need to pass the variables. Say like every person should have a name. I'll pass the name. Maybe if you want to add age, fine. Every employee, maybe some salary also. Salary. So like the two variables are there. Assume that you want a default arguments. Means when the user didn't give, so you want to take a default salary. So now I am creating two variables. Self dot name is equal to which are the name you give. Self dot salary is equal to salary which was given. So observe. So this count or something, it is like common for everyone. So but like this employee is something which is different for everyone. Now let's say I am creating this instance now. It will throw an error definitely because like it expects one argument called as a name. The two arguments actually it expects, but one of them if you don't give also it can manage. So now if I create employee one, I need to pass. So the minimum one thing, which is a name. Say like I pass like Uday. So if I pass some salary also fine. So maybe like I am giving some other salary, some number I'm giving. This is the salary. So if I pass both, it will take it. If you don't pass, it will not take. So for that, if I'm asking, hey, what is the values of this employee one? Maybe like I'm creating like instead of even employee one. Now if you see what will happen for this name. So the name was came, salary was given. Because I passed two variables, I got it. But sir, did I get these two variables? No. So if I want to use it, so I will get as it is. I will tell you this shortly. So let me go for the second employee. So I have a second employee called a Z2. For this person also I'm asking, hey, what is the VAS? Now if you see what will happen. For both the persons, you are getting the name and salary because both are like self variables, but others you are not getting. Now, how to get the total employees? So if you want to manage total number of employees in the company and so and so. So that's where you need to understand about total employees count. So maybe like I will write a method called as total employees count. So within that, I will define. So whatever the employees, if you want to know what is the current number of employees. So for that, we need to use something like this. What are the class level variables if you want to access? We need to access like this. Employee count. So if I do like this now, for both the variables, I will make a definition saying that, hey, give me For employee 1 also I can ask, hey, give me the list of employees. For employee 2 also I can ask, hey, give me the list of employees. Observe difference. So these are two instances. For two instances I'm asking. So in both cases we are able to refer to this one. So my intention is every time when an employee was joined, I want to increase this employee count. So observe carefully. I am increasing this employee count by 1. Sorry, I increase by 1. So this is what happens, right? Every time it will increase by 1. So you are telling that, so this employee count you want to change by 1. Did you see that you defined this variable outside? If you want to access, this is how you are accessing. But you are changing this value like this. Means with self you are changing and you are asking. Obviously within the function definition it will give. So there is no difference. You will get it. If I execute it, you get it as it is. But the point is, after doing this change, you are asking, hey, what is the total number of employees? You made an increment by 1, or like even 10 also you can make, or so 5 also you can make. But after that, did you see? So every time within that you are making a change, but your changes are not getting reflected outside. Am I right? You cannot just ask employee count. If you just ask like employee count plus equal to 0, 5, it will throw an error because there is no local variable called as employee count. But if you change with a self, the changes are happening, but the changes will not reflect outside. So this method basically will return the total number of employees within this one, but it will not change it. So then what is the solution, sir, for this problem? If every time a new employee is coming, you want to increase the count. So for that, there is a different way. So to do that, instead of changing this variable directly, so we need to do the change also in this way. So observe carefully. When you are referring also, you are referring like this, right? Employee.employee count. So we should, when you are changing also, we should do in the same way. Sir, when I am referring also, can I do like this? You can do like this if you want. But the point is, so for this employee, it will be like 5 count. But after that, for second employee, when you're asking, the count should be like 5, right? 5 plus 1. So like that it should do. But it will not happening. So any number you do, it will not changing. So the point is that whenever you want to make a class level changes, this method should be different in a different way. Okay. So whenever you are making a changes, you need to refer with this employee dot so and so. So all the changes must be referred with respect to employee dot. So employee dot. So employee dot. So instead of self, we need to use, because in this case we want to only the employee counts. That's what we used. So I need to comment this one. So instead of like this, so I'm commenting this one. So I am doing like this. So all changes I am counting like this. Now you see, before, after, so and so, it is getting. And at the end, there are 2 employees, right? That's what happening. So two employees are there, it's coming. In the same fashion, whenever you want to work with this only class level things, so instead of you doing like this every time employee dot like that, so you can do this in a much better way. So for that, instead of passing like this one also, there is a better way. So there is something called as CLS. If you pass CLS, you can just use CLS. So you need not write class name. Tomorrow, if the class name was changed to something else, so every time we cannot change it, right? If you do like CLS, now did you see what will happen? Whatever the changes you do, so within the class level, sorry, here also CLS. So it will change it. So this is called as a class method. This is called as a class method. So these are called as class variables. So this is, till now we wrote like instance variables. What are the changes you make? The changes will reflect only to the instances. But if the changes need to be reflected at the instance level, so class level, then we can go for a class level variables. So for every employee, instead of you asking now, overall you can ask. You need not ask at every employee level. So at what is this employee counts, right? So at that itself you can ask, hey, give me employee dot. counts, employee count directly. So you need not worry every time, but you should ensure that this is called every time. So how do you ensure that this is called every time? So within your class constructor, when it is done, it should be called. So similarly, one more thing I want to bring to your notice is there is another thing called as del. Like constructor, there is one more thing called as a destructor. So this is all you should be aware of. Every time when you create a class, an instance is created, right? So every time when your instructor is deleted, instructor will call. So this one, instead of making a call explicitly, what I will do, so whenever in the constructor, I am incrementing the value. Whenever in the destructor, I am decrementing the value. Observe carefully. Now every time, so when your instance is created, so they can ask the value, and every time after that, they can ask the total count. So maybe like I will make f of like this count. And after this, I will make what is f of count. And observe carefully. So every time I'm making a call, so employee count is like increment. Oh, I need to increment right here. So plus equal to. Observe clearly now. So instead of you writing this much big logic, simply we can solve. Every time it will be incrementing. And also observe the destructor is also called. Means when you created an instance, instructor is called. But how destructor is called? Because at the end of code, all the variables will be removed. So then the destructor will be called. Or explicitly also you can call a destructor by doing employee, say delete employee one. So like that you can ask also. Or like this also we can do. Maybe like inside I will do between that. So now you will understand. A destructor is called, the employee count decreases by one, like that. So hope it's clear. So in the same fashion, if I create like one more employee, so the same thing happens. Now I can create one more employee. For that employee also same thing happens. Now instead of working at the individual, I can ask overall. So at the class level itself, how many and so and so. So this is all you need to be aware of class level variables and how to work with it.